You know what to say. Just make an announcement. Oh, waiting out there. It's about ready. A young man recently picked as the comic find of 1922 by the shopping news of Greenwich Village. Greenwich Village, that's a little area in New York where a man with moderate means can live like a queen. Direct from 2 successful days.
Direct from 2 successful...
No, not direct. Direct. This guy don't talk good English right. Einstein was right. MC square. Now just make some kind of an announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen...
No. That's too fast. Give them a chance to identify themselves. It's ladies and gentlemen. Dash. Now, when you make the announcement, speak with clarity, dignity, and enthusiasm. Speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's foremost authority, Professor Irwin Corey.
Now, that's the way it should have been done right from the beginning. Don't screw up. These introductions are so important.
Thank you. Oh, you got your paper ready, huh?
Do you have the Times at all?
Nah, I should. What, news or the Post?
No.
Just a fucking quarter. You want the Post?
For a quarter, I'll take it. Okay. I need some change here.
Did you get your paper this morning? The news, half price today.
I'm all set. Thank you very much. I got one.
Oh, you got one.
Going back to the office.
I need some change.
What?
I gotta get some change.
I'll give you
Three
change.
quarters. 1, 2, and another one.
No.
Half price is 50 cents. So if half price is a quarter.
Oh, shit.
You gotta give me another quarter. There you go.
How much did I give you?
You gave me 75 cents.
Okay.
50,
I'll see you later, alligator. Thank you.
thank you.
Did you get your paper today? Half price today. News or the Post?
Yeah, I don't read in English.
News?
No, thank you very much.
Post?
Thank you very much, sir.
Half price.
Okay, man.
Okay.
I see you're still a star.
Yeah, they're still doing your fucking shit.
By the way, I looked you up on the YouTube. They showed a clip when you were with the Jackie Gleason show.
Oh,
Anyway, you look good, man. You look very young, you know?
oh, I was young. I was done 1955, 56.
Holy Jesus, man, I'm telling you, man. But you're still doing it, man. That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay. See you later. Instead of $1, only a quarter for the paper. The News or the Post.
We are from Germany.
What?
We're Germans. We don't read that.
Half price,
Well, come on, we'll take
How much is it?
25 cents.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Okay. From Germany?
From Germany. From Germany.
Munich?
No, Heidelberg. Heidelberg.
Heidelberg.
Yes.
Do you know why the Germans marry the Irish people?
Why?
They both hate England. Okay. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.
I'm there next year. Yeah, every year during open enrollment, I can review my plan. Mine still works for me. How about a plan for up here?
Now's the time to review your Medicare prescription drug and health plans.
I started by looking through the census material on Ancestry.com. And I found the pages, the copies of the documents. Through Ancestry.com, I was able to see that I was very much my father's son.
Who will you discover on Ancestry.com?
How does he get out of it? Look, Sal.
Wow.
Oh, stop it. You're being taped, you know.
What?
You're being taped. You have to make so much noise.
You still go out after the underground agent? Want to take some should try and find it.
You think I do this purposely?
You can control it.
Well, all we can do is look for the best.
Don't smoke if you can't control it.
Well, when you
It's more like gargling. That's exactly what it is. It's coming from
when you cough, hey, have you got control over the cough?
It's him.
Then don't smoke and you won't cough.
What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just going to tidy up a bit before I leave. I'm begging your pardon, sir. I didn't realize I was using an office.
What kind of advice is that?
The only reason you're coughing is because you're smoking that stuff.
Usually here, but you chaps are in the middle of a combat. Seem to be something important.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be coughing.
In fact, we're discussing.
This is a film about Irwin and Fran Corey, two dear old friends of mine. Irwin was born in Brooklyn in 1914. Fran was born in Marathon, upstate New York, in 1916. He was the last of 7 children. Fran was 4th in a family with 8 children. His mother placed him and his siblings in the Brooklyn Hebrew Orphan Asylum after she became ill. He remained there until the age of 13, when he rode the rails out to California. During the Great Depression, he worked for the Civilian Conservation Corps, and while working his way back east, he became a featherweight Golden Gloves boxing champion in Colorado. In 1938, Irwin was back in New York, where he got a job performing in Pins and Needles, a Broadway musical comedy revue about a union organizer in the garment trade in New York. Fran organized anti-war demonstrations in 1938 against Franco and the Spanish Civil War.
The time
Karpatkin.
Who is this?
This is Jeremy Karpatkin. I'm working on the brief on behalf of people who were blacklisted.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Okay, then I'm talking to the right guy.
Yes, I was blacklisted. The reason I was blacklisted was because the Foner's brothers, they were college professors, and there was a rap cordaire committee which made every employer of the city sign a loyalty oath. And the Foner brothers refused to cooperate in that sphere. And I was working at a place called the Copacabana, the most famous nightclub in the history of nightclubs. And the only reason I was working there is Joey Lewis, a very famous comedian, refused to work on Yom Kippur. And he recommended me to Jules Pildel, who was head of the mafia at that time, the Jewish mafia. And they hired me because Yom Kippur didn't mean anything to me. I didn't give a kippur for anything. And that's how I got. So while I was at the Copa, the Foner's brothers were being indicted for quitting college as professors. And I was at a fundraising affair to defend
the Foner brothers.
Yeah, that's I got my name in the Daily Worker.
So, Mr. Corey, I've got two questions for you.
Yeah, you're entitled to two. Yeah.
We're trying to file this brief. We got to file it Monday, and we want to know if we can list you as one of the people who are on the brief.
Oh, sure. Put me that bomb. Let me be the on top of the list.
I think we're listing everybody alphabetically, so you'll be near the top. But I don't know that you'll be the very top.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the second thing. We're including in the brief a brief description of who all the signers are.
What
their connection is to the Blacklist.
You want me to say something about the Blacklist?
No. Here's what we know. You don't need to say anything. We're including something written in the brief that says who you are and what happened to you. I've written something up, a few sentences, and I'd like to read it to you. And if you want to change anything, you tell me. Then we'll change it.
I didn't hear. Listen, I'm 95 years old, and my hearing is not susceptible to simple language. In fact, the Veterans Administration gave me these hearing aids, and the hearing aids don't understand English.
Okay.
So you have to repeat your inquiry.
No problem. Here's the question. We need to put into the brief a brief description of who you are. Can I read to you what I'd like to put in there, and you can tell me if it's okay?
Good.
Okay. I'm going to read it slowly. Tell me if you need me to repeat anything, okay?
All right, what is it?
Irwin Corey is a prominent comedian, performer, and satirist. He was blacklisted during the 1950s for his left-wing political opinions. As a result of the blacklist, he was unable to get the kind of work that his talent and experience would have permitted. Due to the after effects of the blacklist, Corey was not able to get work on television and movies until the 1970s and 80s.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that was an unfortunate thing. In fact, I'm still blacklisted on NBC. The last performance I did at NBC was on Dave Letterman's show.
Nice to see you. Have a seat right there. There you go. Just turn around there. Okay. This will work out just fine.
One of his guests canceled. So they had to get a replacement right away, and I'm not living too far from CBS or NBC, whatever it was. I was there in a half hour. Well, we were on 36th Street, and they were on 52nd. So I went, and when I was on that show, I remember saying, "We got Grenada, Grand Fenwick is next." And I kept talking and making political remarks. And he wanted to talk about my album. He wanted to talk about something more personal. And I always got off the subject. And I was saying, I'd love to find out. And he says, you know, that's the third time you almost said. Well, anyway, Grand Fenwick is the Dutchery in a movie called The Mouse That Roared.
Yeah.
It was an imaginary place. And I remember talking so much that he finally says, oh, we'll talk about that later. And 7 minutes were up. Usually I come back. He says, when we come back. And I thought when we come back to the set again, he's taking maybe a commercial. Well, usually people that are in that part of the show get a full 15 minutes of the show. And he cut me off there, and the other 7 minutes was only music.
He never returned to Late Night with David Letterman after his first appearance in 1982, which he claimed was the result of the blacklist still being in effect. In the early 50s, during the witch hunts, Fran was confronted by FBI agents at her home and followed on the street. Their son Richard was convinced that they wanted to catch his father stealing jokes and passing them on to the Russians.
You know, that House Un-American Activity was illegal and unconstitutional. The committee was after her, not me. I tried to join the Communist Party and they blackballed me. They said I was an anarchist. Do you remember that when they came after you with the...
Yeah. They stopped me in the street and asked me questions.
Times are just as bad now as they were then. The Patriot Act is doing exactly what McCarthy wanted to do. I always thought if the House Un-American Activities Committee ever called upon me, I was prepared. And they would say to me, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And my reply to that would be, sir, do you mind repeating the question? I thought that would show them where they were, huh? And they would repeat the question, and I said the same thing. Do you mind rephrasing it? And I don't understand why the defendants did not use that a part of the Constitution which gives us a sacred ballot. Now, if you have a ballot and a guy asks you how you voted, it's none of your business. Unless you're campaigning, they would know what party you represent. But if you're not campaigning, they cannot ask you how you voted, because that would do away with the secret ballot. They had no right to ask these people about their political affiliations, because the Communist Party was a legal party. It was a legal party. And they didn't have to answer when they asked them what political party they belonged to. It's illegal and unconstitutional. I always say that we've been living under a kakistocracy. Now, the word kakistocracy comes from the Greek. It's opposite of aristocracy. Kaktos, from the Greek, meaning bad. And kaka from the Yiddish, meaning shit. We've been run by a shit government for over 200 years. And the best president that we ever had was Millard Fillmore. 2 weeks after he was inaugurated, he went on vacation. 4 years later, they were going to run him again, and they found out he was dead. But there's nothing in the Constitution which says the congressperson must be alive or the candidate must be alive. The candidate must have qualifications. The candidate must be at least 35 years old and have necessary equipment to screw the people. That's why I say I would never vote for a candidate for president if the candidate did not have a mistress. Let him do to the mistress what he would do to the people. You know, W.E.B. Du Bois said, you cannot have a third party in the United States as long as you have one party operating under two different names.
During the 1960 presidential election, he campaigned for president on Hugh Hefner's Playboy ticket. Irwin was running against Nixon and Kennedy. Victor Lowndes, the Playboy executive at the time, was his campaign manager.
We were running for president in 1959. I was on the Playboy ticket. And Vic Lowndes, a Jewish boy who was the brains behind the Playboy clubs, etc., he was my campaign manager. He was arrested. And we had rooms at the Drake Hotel in Chicago, opposite the Playboy Club. It was a smoke-filled room. We had liquor, and there were, the bunnies were there. Everything connected with the vile campaigns that the Democrats, Republicans, and all other parties ran. We spent a lot of money on that campaign. At election time, I got over 4,000 votes, write-in votes. And I'm sure that was the influence of the Playboy magazine. I was invited by the Republican Party to have a float in the parade. And the New York Times says the only thing that relieved the dullness of the convention was Professor Corey campaigning against the Republicans in the Republican Party parade. Kennedy beat me. He was running for president at the time, and I think Nixon was running against him. Tricky Dick was a marvelous person, a piece of bullshit if there ever was. Oh, this pain is something terrible. Don't ever get the shingles. One guy says to me, no, Corey, I haven't seen you in 30 years. You haven't changed a bit. I said, you dumb bastard. You mean to say I looked like this 30 years ago? Oh.
Dressed in seedy formal wear and sneakers, with his bushy hair sprouting in all directions, he would amble on stage in a preoccupied manner and then begin his monologue with,
However, he walked into Agamemnon's antique shop and said, "What's new? Now distant is anywhere working on..."
He created a new style of doublespeak comedy. Instead of making up nonsense words like Krellman and Trillaweg, like other comics, the professor would season his speech with many long and florid but authentic words.
How the intrinsic relationship between these two oblivious, no relative thought. Actually, what's...
Irwin would launch into nonsensical observations about anything under the sun and occasionally actually making sense. Changing topics suddenly, he would wander around the stage, pontificating all the while.
That's all!
You know who invented the brassiere? Otto Titsling. That's the truth. And the toilet was invented by a guy named Tom Crapper.
You have to carry on by yourself. I have to go to the toilet.
Go ahead. I'll talk to myself.
Yeah.
Once upon a time. Now, what's that song? And I scanned all the earth and searched all the skies and found it at last in the old shoe of lies. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow the fellow. Oh, follow the fellow who follows a dream. Follow the fellow. Follow the fellow. Follow the fellow who follows a dream. That was Yves Harbeck's song from Phineas Rainbow, which is now being revived. But later on, he wrote a musical called Flahooley, and the character of the genie was based on my personality. A long string tie in the beginning and a funny coat like I'm wearing.
Flahooley, you're back in the world, and spring is back. Look, lilacs, tulips, buttercups. It must have been a bad dream. And now, the nightmare endeth, the nightingale singeth, and the springtime cometh. Lad and lass in tall green grass gaily skippeth, nylon rippeth, zipper zippeth, a ding-a-dong, a day, a which is a to say, the springtime cometh, hummingbird hummeth, geranium ummeth, chrysanthemum ummeth, bubblegum gummeth, and the springtime cometh for the love of thee.
But that was written for me, and he tried to write my part in the style of my double talk, but it had too much on one subject, and it always was almost correct, but can't teach comedy. You naturally have a sense of humor, or you're like Nixon, a liar. I don't know how I do it. I think my key is to try to make the words follow each other without being abrupt. Like a comma affair or a dash. Those things are missing. The line comes in one steady stream rather than in raindrops.
Kissinger was right, because Kissinger himself was following the philosophy and the dictates of those who have accepted the responsibility to develop some plateau where their energy might be construed as somewhat dilettante, not détente. Détente and Uncle did not have any relationship with the fact that the Wall of China, which was one of the great marvels of this century's past, according to the latest reports recently tabulated from the Peace Corps, which was started by Kennedy, where they would send people to various countries, Afghanistan, Tripoli, and to China, especially to China, where they taught them to build walls. And that was one of the great contributions the Peace Corps did make in bringing about détente in China.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's foremost authority, Professor Irwin Corey.
I mean, there are a lot of ways The Smothers Brothers, for instance, I was on their show, you know, before they disbanded. Their delivery is quite amusing, similar in a certain way. What's his name again? Tommy Smothers was playing at the Purple Onion, which is not far from the Hungry Eye, just across the street. And he used to come every night. So someone asked him, says, "Why are you going to see Corey every night for? What, do you want to steal his material?" He says, "No. We want to steal his timing." '49, I think. I did a show called The Toast of the Town, and the host of that show was Ed Sullivan. Ed Sullivan, a Jew hater if there ever was one, even though he married a Hebrew child. I was at the Blue Angel, and he came in drunk, making remarks that were horrendous. And I couldn't do anything. I just had to get up and excuse myself. I should have hit him in the fucking face. Ed Sullivan had no talent at all, absolutely no talent. Therefore, it was so easy to imitate. Charlie Chaplin, for instance, at a contest, Charlie Chaplin, look-alike and acting, came in third. In the beginning, George Carlin was great. Going into the 10 Commandments was a very funny routine. In fact, I gave him his start to a degree. I was working at the Playboy Club, and he was going to do the Ed Sullivan show, but he wanted to try his material out. So he asked me if he could take my space at the club. I said, sure. He sat up on the chair. I introduced him to the audience. I said, here, a young comedian is going to be on the Ed Sullivan show, and he wants to try his material out on you. What do you say? Let's give him a chance. He was on there for an hour, picking out what was accepted. That's how he got the job. I got Gregory his job. I refused to work on Sunday at the Playboy Club in Chicago, so they hired him. He used to send me flowers every time I opened at a new club. I was saying, "Thank you for not working on Sundays." However, the story goes, I was playing in London at the Ronnie Scott's, which is a jazz room, and I'm the star of the show. In comes this black guy. He stands in the middle of the cold, and there the spotlight is on him. I'm the star of the show, but they had the spotlight on this black guy. And I looked at him, and he was wearing sunglasses. And I said to him, "Dick, why are you so goddamn happy?" And I took the glasses off, and I put it on, and I said, "Oh, everybody's black."
Brother, that little spiel you gave right before you brought me up here about me and how nice and pleasure to be here, they told Jesus Christ the same thing on Thursday. I went upstairs to get some pictures taken, and he was asleep, scared shit out of me. I thought he was dead. And so when I saw Irwin Corey dressed in a tuxedo, but he looked like a professor that I knew, Dr. Rodenbaugh. Genius and stone out of his mind. And that's Irwin. I'm looking at him, his looks, his Where'd he come from? He look like he come from another planet. Oh, he's just there, huh? If you went any planet and they said, well, you go to that room and you find the god of happiness, it would look like him. That's this man who I never met, didn't know, just saw him on, and thinking about how I felt when I was in school and said, God, if I had a teacher like this, huh? That would just walk in and communicate with this in here, not this intellectual thing in here. America, with entertainment, said as a Negro, you could sing and you could dance, but you couldn't stand flat-footed and talk to white folks. So no Negro was permitted to work a white nightclub. There was no law. There was no law. But it was carried out. Nobody. The mob owned 99% of the nightclubs, and they wouldn't dare break that. And here's Hugh Hefner and his entourage. Tony Accordo that ran the mob in Chicago. I mean, you know, St. Valentine's Day killing, all that massacre, all them thugs was there, enjoying themselves. And Hugh Hefner's there. And he saw Sammy and he saw the show. They left. And I felt good. I went through the black community, man. Said, man, Hugh Hefner was there, Tony Accordo was there. And one day, unbeknown to me, the Playboy Club was probably the #1 club in the history of the planet. There'll never be another because of Hefner's book. Because people looked at it for the center page, but intellects all over the world wrote in that book. And so you got a hell of a treat. So it had like an occult. And so he opened up the Playboy Club, one in Chicago. And he made millions of dollars because people bought keys from all over the world. They never would get there, just the status. I remember the Playboy.
See you later, alligator. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
And then one day, my agent calls me and said, Hugh Hefner wants you to play the Playboy. I didn't know it was just one night. And there's a couple of things I didn't. First, I didn't know it was just to take Irwin Corey's place, who refused to work Sunday. Paid $50. I've been making $10 a week, man. So I multiplied 50 times 7. I didn't know it was that much money, although I just said, and I didn't know that white folks didn't pay you. That's a Negro thing, day work. I work at your house and get the money and I go home, buy stuff for the family. So I came down there with my last quarter. It's a blizzard that night and got off at the wrong stop. And I got to be on at 8 o'clock in the carousel room, and I'm panicking. Biggest break that a Negro could have, and I'm about to blow it.
How you feeling, all right? A little better today. Yeah, good. Thank you.
I'm running in the snow, slipping in the snow. I got my suit in the bag, wrapped them on, and then I saw a sign look like heaven to me. About 8 blocks away, I turned the corner and I saw this huge Playboy sign, and I was going through the snow. Had I got there on time, you wouldn't be talking to me today. Because I got there and it's a black doorman, and Negroes always have some kind of feeling about being late. never get there on time. We don't like white folks to know. I never had that feeling. I didn't care about being late.
Great, thank you. I'll see you later, alligator.
And so I get there, and I see this man. I asked the black guy, I said, the carousel room, where is it? He says, second floor to the right. Now, the first floor, Aretha Franklin's playing there. She's just a little piano, singing. And you really didn't come to see acts, so he didn't have to spend money for big acts. They came to see the bunnies and be part of that. And be able to call home from, I went to the Playboy Club. How was it? I didn't care about what act. And so I'm thinking about the one time I want to be on time. This big white club. And I see this white man standing there. Now, I don't know he's standing there waiting on me to tell me I don't have to work that night. Well, in the Norman circumstance, I don't have to work and I'm getting paid. But what I had found out, they had rented that room out, the carousel room, to a Southern white frozen food convention of white men. And they said, oh, God. And they couldn't have felt if Irwin would have worked that night. They couldn't feel no better than a Jew than they felt about me. At least he could get in there. And so I pushed this guy out the way. I don't know, it's Victor Long. And I run up there, don't have time to change, so jump on the stage at exactly 8 o'clock. And I'm cooking, man. I am cooking. 9 o'clock, I'm still cooking. 10:30, lounge calls Hefner, and you better get over here. Something's happening. And so they got over there. And they couldn't believe, not. First thing I said to them Southerners, I understand y'all from Alabama. I spent 20 years in Alabama one day, and they just loved it.
You see, Shakespeare was very much in love with Anne Hathaway, who lived in a thatched hutch thatched in Normandy, just after the Norman conquest, when the Israelites were chased out of northern England, and they came back during Cromwell's administration, and they took over, and then they lost Dublin. It was a hutch thatched. Well, he asked Anne Hathaway's father for her hand in marriage. And her father said, why does this not take the whole thing? You see, Shakespeare invested in the tithe. Now, the tithe was 1/10 of the crop that the peasants gave to the tithe in order to carry on the functions of the organization. And Shakespeare got a lot of dividends. You see, many people thought that Bacon wrote Shakespeare. Actually, Shakespeare ate bacon. Oh, it was allowed in them days. See, all the bacon and all the pork and all the ham was kosher. We are in the third, it was a thatched hutch. We are in the third act.
What is the Cretaceous period?
Cretaceous is right.
So what period?
Cretaceous.
13,700.
Excavation rate was 1600.
I was on the Carson show, and they were talking about Sammy Davis Jr. I says, yes, Sammy Davis Jr., his contribution to the entertainment field was, he was very versatile. Can dance and sing and tell jokes, right? But I also said that versatility is the cloak behind which mediocrity hides. When you're not getting him with your dancing, you try to get him with your jokes. If you can't get him with the jokes, you try to get him with singing. If you can't get him with singing, you go to the toilet. He said it was devastating to watch me. Kind of a funny compliment. My piano player at the satire room was Liberace. He later became a very famous item in Vegas, wore very expensive costumes, and he used to have a candelabra on his piano all the time. I always say, ask the question, what's better than a rose on a piano? And the answer was, tulips on your organ.
Over a career spanning 8 decades, Irwin has influenced generations of comics, one of his favorites being Lenny Bruce, who called him one of the most brilliant comedians of all time.
Well, the place that really appreciated me the most was San Francisco or California. I worked at Crescendo 3 times, the Interlude twice. Yeah. When I would be working at the Interlude, Lenny Bruce would be working at the Crescendo. When I worked at Crescendo, he worked upstairs at the Interlude. He was something. But Lenny was apolitical. He didn't know the difference between capitalism and socialism. He thought that communism and fascism were the same thing. Lenny was a sweet and gentle person. It had a delivery, and he had a sound in his voice which was mesmerizing. Well, when the second night that Lenny opened, I was there, and that night there was Alan Funt. There were a lot of very important people at his second night, and Kunstler was his lawyer. And I said to Lenny, just tone it down a bit. He says to me, Irwin, tall. He was so annoyed and so unbelievable that, and I knew I made a mistake. Well, anyway, they did arrest him. And I was at the club, and I told the people, Mr. Bruce can no longer be available. He's handicapped. He's in the hands of the government. And those of you who want to stay, and I will take his place because the cultural committee okayed me, and the police and cultural committee. And there was the burning bush. The Jews had trouble with bushes even in them days. There was the burning bush which was ne'er consumed. And the burning bush said to Moses, Moses, go down into the land of Egypt and free my people. And Moses looked at the bush and said, a bush can't talk. Little did Moses realize that was a marijuana bush. Moses got so high, he thought he was God. And down into the house of bondage, into the land of Egypt, Moses took the Jews and marched them through the hot, burning desert for 40 years and 40 nights without sandals.
God damn. Moses said, shut up and move. And they marched and marched and marched. And what did the dumb bastard do? He turns left. He'd have turned right. We'd owned the oil fields and Monaco. We would have been rich people.
Remember, they used to have identification cards to work in cabarets. That's why Lord Buckley died. They wouldn't let him work in New York. They wouldn't give him a card because he wouldn't smoke marijuana. Big deal. God made everything. He made marijuana. What did he do, to tease us? Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your show, unquote. The eyes sparkle, a beatific grin flares Now I do mine. What's that?
I don't know.
Was it sent to you?
No. I'm looking through old papers, Irwin.
You know, this stuff is really getting better.
Don't fall asleep.
So my philosophy is, it is better to receive than to give. A lot of people say it's better to give. Well, you want to give? Give. You find to give so much, you say, hell with it, I gave it up, and that's it. But you never get tired of receiving. So my philosophy is to you people, don't earn more than you could spend, but spend more than you earn. And die in debt. Now, if you owe a lot of money, you're going to live long. I mean, the people you owe it to are going to make sure you live long. I mean, say you die at 75 and you owe $300,000. To amortize that loan at $30,000 a year would take you, with accrued interest, 18 years to pay it off. So you actually live to be 93. Because you're living on money you would have made if you lived that long. So my suggestion to you is to borrow to attain this affluent position. Borrow. Start with your friends. Borrow from your friends. And when they ain't got any more money, make new friends. But keep borrowing.
I wonder where those reviews were.
One notable fan of Irwin's comedy was the influential theater critic, Kenneth Tynan, who once wrote of Irwin in The New Yorker. Corey is a cultural clown, a parody of literacy, a travesty of all that our civilization holds dear, and one of the funniest grotesques in America. He is Chaplin's tramp with a college education.
Fran, you want to hear some of the reviews? London was great to me. One review says, an excellent, unconventional comedian, Irwin Corey, who makes a virtue of not knowing what on earth he is talking about. That was the New Chronicle, Alan Dent. And at the Palladium, that Professor Irwin Corey, who describes himself as the world's greatest authority and whose act was a majestic chaos of crumbling half sentences. Now, here's what my Tynan establishment. Small tail-coated and Brooklyn-born, Mr. Corey bridges the gulf between Billy Nennett and Zero Mostel, between British music hall and the transatlantic nightclubs. Billed as the world's foremost authority, he delivers the customers with an arco fervor on any topic that chances to zigzag through the chaos of his mind. The accent he uses is fluently collegiate English, betrayed by momentarily lapse into Manhattan Jewish. He times and withdraws his mispronouncing with a significant precision, unraveled in the business. And now and then, sometimes after every other phrase, he loses the trend of his argument. Grasping at a straw, he seizes the end of his knee-length Slim Jim tie, and it makes like a ticker tape. My God, he mutters, we've been wiped out. Returning to his theme, which is the plot of Hamlet by Julius Shakespeare, he declaims snatches of the poet's work, beginning with Antony's tribute to Caesar. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a thringly thrown. Sophie Tucker is a fat pig. You will note the impish changes of the meter in the last line. Later, he philosophically observed, it is impossible to capture the minds of a heterogeneous mass when they ain't even here, unquote. I beg you to be there. I beg you to be there. This other guy wrote me, he saw the same show. He says here, maybe Irwin Corey's brand of humor appeals to his fellow Americans, but it is hard to recall a visiting comedian who has been such a resounding failure. He says if he doesn't change his material, he won't last out his engagement. So happens, I was held over for 7 weeks. Irwin Corey, you were ahead of your time. An article in the Los Angeles Times, Thursday, December 16th, 1982. In 1982, I was ahead of my time. Oh, here's a little note. It says, Dear Professor, I'm not even inside, yet I'm laughing already. Gene Shalit wrote me that.
Somebody sent me a picture in the newspaper. He's out on the corner with his outfit on, raising money for Cuban children. So he's something special. One day, maybe when they start unwrapping universal secrets, we'll know where he really came from. But to me, he's just like he didn't have a mother, he didn't have a father. He's published where he come from. That's what he did to change the whole planet. Because when black comics got liberated, women comics got liberated.
Irwin started doing his paper rounds almost 20 years ago. He must have decided that it was important to take on a routine other than comedy clubs and appearances. It's kept him in shape.
I used to get free baseball tickets from Modell, which is a sports store. They used to give me free tickets to the Mets game and to the Yankee games. And I just gave the tickets to the drivers of the Daily News, and they would give me newspapers. People would give me money. The paper cost 50 cents, they'd give me $1. Some people gave me $5. A couple of people gave me $100. And I collected almost $41,000. And I gave Madre $40,000 to buy medicine for Cuba. We bought $375,000 worth of medicine for $40,000 because they had medicine that was on the shelf and it only had a 5-month shelf life. And in Cuba, they used that stuff in 1 month. When I went to Cuba with my family and my niece, was an interpreter, could speak Spanish. In fact, Fidel Castro went to Columbia University and spoke very good English. We were at a house that he gave us to spend our time there, and the telephone rang, and it was Fidel Castro's bodyguard. Told him that he'd like to come to the house and meet me. So I said, sure, let him come in. And there was a knock on the door, and who was there? Fidel Castro. So I said, listen, you want to go and knock on the door again? Because we want to take a film of this. He laughed and didn't do it, but he came in and enjoyed our company, and we enjoyed his company. Everybody in Cuba knew me because it was televised. I didn't realize at the time. Reuters wrote the incident up, and the New York Post criticized it, called me Fidel's friend of a communist country. I don't care what kind of country it is. There were children there that I saw needed medical help. I met Fidel Castro, a wonderful person. In my mind, he was the only dictator, if you call him that had no bank account in Switzerland. All other dictators have it. Half price, only a quarter. Oh, 25 cents, you can't go broke with a fucking quarter. Thank you. Okay.
Fran was often a plant during Irwin's shows and provided set questions for Irwin's question period. Once, she and her sister Mary got loaded on cocktails given by the club, and they completely screwed up Irwin's routine. They still laugh about it today.
You don't remember, huh? Don't fall asleep. I remember your material better than you do.
Yeah, because you had nothing else to do.
Yeah, you had to think up the answers.
But that woman in Ocho Rios, when you and Mary were getting loaded on.
Oh yeah.
Boy, you had a time. You could drink all you wanted. That was a wonderful vacation we had. How long were we there? For 2 weeks?
I don't remember the time.
Yeah.
But you were performing, and we were supposed to ask you questions. But we got drunk on the whatever it was we were drinking. So we mixed up the questions. And one of them was, why is the sky blue?
Oh, yeah.
And what was your answer? It was a two-part
question.
Yeah.
First you ask why. Why has been plaguing man since time immemorial? Statesmen, philosophers, educators, teachers, scientists have been asking the ultimate why, and in these few moments allocated me, it would be ludicrous on my part, for the sake of brevity, to delve into the ultimate why. Is the sky blue?
Yes.
And you never get there on time just because he'd be just, Look like he's waiting for people to fill up the seats, because the people that's there. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's almost like a thought just came to him. I don't care how many times you see him and hear him, it's like a thought just dropped down. Let me tell you something. That's this spirit, that's love. If you had one word to describe him, it wouldn't be love, it would be lovable. I love you, baby. If I can't have you, nobody, that's scary. But when you're lovable, I'm safe with you and you're safe with me. And so he's made this planet a little safer to be in. That's my brother. That's my friend. That's my spirit.
No smoking, no smoking. Give it to me. De la gilet pas for me. Oh, cigarettes. Live. Live. You fellas on scholarship. Live. I gotta live too. Hab le congélement. Ada. You're all under arrest.
Well, they were married for a long time.
What?
It's talking about my parents.
Yeah, well, I knew them both. Isaac was, he was unfortunately passed away when he was only 66.
Yeah, he was 66 when he died.
And your mother, I think, was 84, right?
82.
82. So
Yeah.
you'd have very little longevity in your line. Longevity is in not my line. I got a
Well,
sister
I'm
that's-
93 years old. That's not young.
There's only 2 out of 8. Oh, I had a big family. I was the youngest of 6. I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And the only one that survived is one of my sisters. And she's 100 years and 3 months old. She had a birthday party the 17th of July. My birthday party was at the Players Club. And we had people there like Mickey Friedman. Now, you people may not know Mickey Friedman, but he was with the Bilko Show.
Hey, soldier.
All right, knock it off, Chester. There'll be no more dimes for coffee.
Oh, you offend me. I was about to ask you to join me. Oh, miss, crawlers all around.
Hey, where'd you get all that money?
A small consideration paid by Mr. Hilton for changing my name.
Yeah, I'm glad to see somebody made something out of this deal. Well, so long, Chester.
Name's not Chester anymore. It's Walter.
Walter, well, that's nice.
Walter Rockefeller.
The Bible is a great book, and you can make a lot of money on it. Charlton Heston made a lot of money on it. A dirty, stupid asshole. A piece of shit. I use the word shit in a derogatory way. Did you know that there was a female pope? Well, Pope Joan, how she became pope is interesting. She was dressed as a man with her boyfriend into Bologna, where they were going to study for the priesthood. And he died, and she took up his footsteps. And she became Pope of Rome. And she was pregnant. So she figured she'd leave town for a while and come back after the birth. But she gave birth. Everybody in the crowd cheered. A miracle! A miracle! The Pope gave birth.
When they found out it was a woman, they brought her back to where she conceived and stoned her to death. And now, every time the Pope is coronated, he has to sit on a seat which has a hole in it. And underneath the chair, a man sticks to find out if it has testicles. Then it become Pope.
And so I'm sitting in the Black nightclub, and the great singer, Billy Eckstine, he's sitting next to me. And he said, yeah, man, Jack Paul's a motherfucker. They keep wanting me on the show. I said, what's a great show? Why don't you? He said, because he ain't never let a nigga sit on the couch. And when I sit on that couch, my salary jumped from $250 a week to $5,000 a night. That was the power. Nobody in the history was that, oh no, he couldn't have survived. Nah, the whole thing done changed. And you trace that back to one man. I said, I'm not gonna work. I don't know why. He said, well, that's why it was bigger than him, it's bigger than me. Because out of that, thank you, Irwin, come a floodgate of Black comics that the world had never knew existed. And the whole entertainment industry changed. From the mom and pop jokes to the woman getting the butt of the jokes. Now, you don't go back and look at all the Irwin stuff, and it's never no unfair. You can always tell when Bob Hope was going to tell the Negroes, I was walking down the street today and saw this bebopper. Oh, here we go again, huh?
For you people out there, I feel more like I do now than when I first got here. And this in itself shows that the development of those who realize the aspect of joining a curiosity which can only develop after the basic information is given, so that these allegations cannot be supported by any contribution that you might endeavor. What was the question? My things about prophets is when the soothsayer came unto Caesar and said unto Caesar, beware of the Ides of March. What he really meant was, beware of the ideology of Marx.
You're getting less and less interesting.
What?
You're getting less and less interesting.
All right, so well, you can cut it out.
The world's foremost authority. Here he is, Professor Irwin Corey.
He often appeared on Steve Allen's late night show, whereon he would end his rambling stand-up routine with Allen literally chasing him off the stage.
What is any modern dance? What a form of
I've been in a lot of movies, you know. They're all bums. They're all flops.
My wife taught me how to do this. Let's kick the Kaiser in his keister.
But there were big people in there.
Many times over.
Wait a minute, I told you I'm going to Brooklyn.
That's the difference between us. You're going to Brooklyn, and I'm not. Voila. Now, the secret of cracking boxes, opening safes to you, is based on the presumption that what is on the inside cannot be outside. And what is on the outside, stop eating. We're going to have intermission later.
That Clara, she had fire in her mouth.
Me, I would settle for a few teeth.
Keep eating the carrots. I think they're working.
There was Robert Williams, who got me the job in Jack. And I remember I only had one line in the whole play, and the rest of it was called ad lib. And my line was, it's your birthday, Jack, make a wish. And I added, remember, you're as young as you feel, not as old as you look.
When you think about entertainers in America, you think of drugs and perverted sex, and you don't think of family, huh? You don't think of friendship, huh? You don't think of somebody living in New York, huh? You don't think of somebody just as close to their religion. He called me one day and asked me to come to the state. I didn't know the fuck state I was. What? Who is this? So you just think, one day when you look around for the good things America produced, and you got to do it right. In order to do it, you have to have an Indian with you and a woman, because they used to burn her at the stake. I never understood that. So one day, if the Indians and all the people who's been misused get to pick some of the beautiful spirits that America produced, here's to be one of them. I'm talking about by your peers, by people who know what beautiful spirits look like. So hats off to the brother and the family. And we say thank you.
Find out where it's going to land. Plus dramatic rescues from dangerous floodwaters in Britain, more rain.
On a beautiful May morning in 2011, their son, Richard, found Fran on the floor of the living room. She was rushed to hospital, where after a month, she passed away.
You know, I knew a fella that cheated in solitaire.
Ready to leave the hospital this month. The pictures show the kind.
As someone who has remained upbeat for most of his life, Irwin is sad and lonely without Fran.
Long hours with her, checking her heart rate, administering her medication, and just making her comfortable.
My wife passed away just recently, and this poem fits her to the T. She was a wonderful woman, with me for 71 years. Anybody that can stand me for 71 years must have some character. And I want to say, I miss her. The day she passed away, I missed her. My house is empty without her. Empty, empty. Only the loneliness and you remain. All other things have wasted, worn away. The sights and sounds, once vivid, are dissolved into a blended background, somber gray, against which stand edge biting sharp and clear by ardent love and memory's deep pain, the mind's created of your image, that alone with solitude remain. We cut on this particular moment as a fade out into a different mood, into a different light. Okay.
Irwin is 98. He still travels, gigs, and makes appearances.
However, what we must understand is we should have a little more respect for John Wayne. After all, if it wasn't for John Wayne, we would have lost the Vietnam War even in the movies.